Hi everyone, if you're playing Diablo Immortal, then you will probably know about combat rating and how important it is to move up to higher difficulties, higher challenge rift levels, how you scale against other people in PvP. But I also want to give a bit more of a detailed insight onto combat rating and how to play around it the best way possible. So in general, combat rating is the dictating factor in how high you can go in difficulties with your character. So this is the primary power score indicator, so to say. So you can find it here when you open the more details in your character right at the top. And you will need to reach certain thresholds in order to do anything on, for example, Hell 2, Hell 3, Hell 4, etc. Or the same for challenge rifts. So what this stat actually does, in case you're not aware, is that it reduces your damage done if it's too low, and it increases your damage taken by an incredible amount if you are below on the combat rating. So it's essentially a gear check. The higher difficulties in Diablo Immortal are not actually more difficult, they are just a gear check. So you have to do your daily grind, you have to upgrade your items, you have to upgrade your legendary gems. This is how you get a combat rating. There are two primary sources of combat rating. So we have the main stats on your items, so the fortitude and willpower and strength and all that stuff. So those numbers, they add up to be one part of the combat rating. And you also have your legendary gems, which is also the primary pay-to-win mechanic in Diablo Immortal. So they also give you combat rating, so the 1 stars less than 2 stars and those less than 3, etc. So the higher rank your gems and the higher star count they have, the better you are off and the more combat rating you have. There are some other sources as well, like the upgrades on your items. So right now I have, for example, rank 8 upgrades everywhere, so I get plus 32 on all of my items. You also have the secondary items that can be upgraded, but at a slower pace. And there are other smaller sources like the Hell Quarry that you also want to farm every single week for the Scoria, because you also get some combat rating here, for example. Now the thing is that combat rating is not always everything that matters. So you can see here, for example, there's actually a green arrow here in my inventory. This item has a higher score, it has more stats. You can see this is a combined 85 and this is only a combined 83. And I actually do have some other stuff in my stash where I have way higher values on some of those, especially set pieces, that I'm not using because I actually don't need the combat rating right now. So you can see this here, for example, those boots are like way better, but they are a different set. And we also have those gloves, they are way better. So, you know, I could easily boost my combat rating by another 30, 40, maybe 50 even if I just equip the highest stuff. But obviously I would have to break all my set bonuses, which is a bit of a problem. Right now, when you unlock Hell 2 difficulty, you'll be able to use 4-piece set bonuses, and some of them are very powerful. In the case of the Monk, there are actually 3 different sets that I have collected, which is the Flagellant here for DPS. I have the Vithal's Urges for support, and I also have the Mountebank that gives a shield that I use mostly in PvP. So there is actually a reason to have these different sets at the ready for various builds, depending on which class you play. And there is also a reason to not care too much about combat rating, which is when you are above the required threshold for one of the next difficulties. So if you look at the difficulty overview, we have Hell 2, and if you click on the info, it says 1220. And you just saw I have 1436. So I'm over 200 above the required combat rating. And this gives me only very minor benefits if I'm staying on the Hell 2 difficulty. So you can see this here, it increases all my damage done by 11%, decreases all my damage taken by 10%, which are extremely small values compared to the negative effects that you get for being too low. If I'm 200 too low, I will get annihilated. And I can demonstrate this right now, so I can just take off maybe 2 items here. So we remove this and maybe this one. And yeah, we pretty much went down 200 rating. And you see that the numbers have barely changed. If you look at the bonus damage, it's 1% now, and I take 1% less damage. So yeah, I lost like 10% power or so. But now if you remove another 200 combat rating, there will be a massive difference. And this is also maybe something you noticed on your own when you were maybe trying Hell 2 difficulty or Hell 3 difficulty or something like this. So now we went down like 250 rating again. I'm at 968. And now you see it decreases all my damage done by 68%. So I only do a third of my normal damage and increases my damage taken by 216%. So the penalty is way bigger than the bonuses that you get for being higher. Even if we equip this one item again here, and we go up to 1127 combat rating, so we are 93 points behind, you can still see I do roughly half my normal damage and I still take 80% increased damage. So a lot of bosses in dungeons especially, they will pretty much destroy you with some of the bigger attacks. I have been farming Hell 2 dungeons at roughly this level for a while to prepare for Paragon 30 to then equip all the loot, but it was kind of rough. But if you want to try to get to the next Hell difficulty early to pre-farm the loot, then you need to be at least pretty close, like in a range of around 100 points or so, else you're gonna have a pretty bad time. So just about now, on the next few days, pretty much most people will reach Paragon 30, and this means they will be able to equip the Hell 2 loot, but you will still have to have this combat rating requirement. There's not actually a Paragon requirement to farming Hell 2 or Hell 3, meaning that if you have the combat rating required to be able to defeat monsters in those difficulties, you can actually go there and already farm your Paragon 80 loot if you want. You just have to wait another month or so to wear it. Obviously 2100 combat rating is pretty much out of reach for anyone who doesn't invest at least a decent 3-digit sum of money into the game. So most people will reach this way later, but there are people running through Hell 3 easily already because of the pay to win. But the thing is that outside of moving on to a next Hell difficulty, there is not really such a big pressure to stack combat rating at all times. So yeah, you want to do maybe a higher challenge rift here and there. So there it matters because every challenge rift level goes a bit higher in the combat rating scaling. The same with the Path of Blood. So maybe in those cases, you do want to equip just the highest combat rating items you have. So if I'm going to push Path of Blood, I might actually break my set bonuses just to get a bit more combat rating out of it because it's going to help me more, most likely. But other than that, when you're just comfortably farming through Hell 2 difficulty, doing your dailies, doing, any kinds of dungeons, and you are at 1200, 1300, 1400 combat rating, it doesn't matter all that much and you can just wear whatever you want with the right stats, especially the set items. And eventually you will approach 2000 plus combat rating and then you're gonna be quite close to the next Hell difficulty threshold, which is where it really matters. So in between those rather big ranges, you can do pretty much whatever you want and you don't have to focus so much on the combat rating, even though it's usually considered like the #1 thing. There's one other important reason to stack combat rating though, which is the Reliquary raid bosses. So compared to the Hell difficulties, they have their own kind of random requirements. So the first LaSalle has like 420 and then you have 1250, that's kind of Hell 2. And then you have the next LaSalle, which is kind of in the middle of Hell 2 and Hell 3 with 16 and 40. And I guess it will continue here with VTAF starting at somewhere around the Hell 3 threshold, like 2k, 2.1k or so, I imagine. And then it will just slowly scale up from there. So there might be also a reason that besides the challenge rate pushing, you also want to maybe stack up this high combat rating gear, even though you otherwise don't really need it, so you can do those raids. So to sum up the points I wanted to make here is, yes, you want to stack combat rating as much as possible. You do this mostly through improving the stats on your items, upgrading your items at the blacksmith, upgrading your legendary gems and the Reliquary. And this will allow you to move on to higher difficulties. But once you are kind of comfortably sitting above the requirement of that difficulty and you're far ahead from the next one, you should definitely focus on the right stats and in particular the right sets. The set items can be very powerful in this game, so you have especially the 4-piece bonuses now on some of those sets that really make a difference for some builds. And you should definitely focus on farming up those and not really just pressing on the item that has the green up arrow necessarily. The game has no way of knowing which stat you want, it just recommends you the highest stats based on some behind the scenes calculations. The socket adds a bit of score, each stat adds a bit of score, all that stuff. But the game doesn't actually know what your plan is. So while the system that the game has is usually quite good at telling you which item is better, it just can't really cover all the bases. So you have to make those decisions for yourself. So I hope this helps to clear out some of those questions that you might have had about combat rating, how it works, and how to progress your character. Hope you liked this video. Subscribe for more Diablo content, and I'll see you guys next time.